welcome everyone to tonight's horror podcast. It is back to the theater night here at Dr. Henry Armitage Memorial High School AV Room. And welcome to episode 121 of the Horror Podcast. My name is Tyler, and I am the owner and editor-in-chief of Signal Horizon, a horror magazine dedicated to exploring genre fiction in and out of the classroom.
And I'm Orrin Gray, creepy connoisseur and writer here at Signal Horizon.
Very good. Tonight on the Horror Podcast, we're going to hopefully convince you that if you are fully vaccinated and you feel comfortable and good enough to get back out there, one of your first stops back in public should be your local non-franchised movie theater, because those are our homes, those are our churches, those are the places that we love to be. But also, we're going to spend some time talking to you about what Orrin and I have been reading and watching, and we're going to help you find some free genre content on the internet. And finally, we're going to spend the remainder of the episode urging everyone to check out the 1991 movie theater classic, Popcorn. But before we get to that review, Orrin, I know you've seen all kinds of stuff. Talk to me about what you've seen.
I mean, all kinds. I did make it out. So Panic Fest just wrapped, as some of our listeners probably know, and this year they did both in person and online viewing. So I made it out to the actual theater, or an actual real in-person theater at the Screenland Armor, which we both love, to see 3 whole movies, compared to last year when I saw 13 in one weekend.
We paid the price, though, man. We paid the price.
But I saw Censor, which was really good.
Yeah, talk to me about that, because immediately after you saw it, you were like, dude, you got to check this out. So
the one you have to check out is actually the Last Matinee.
Oh, okay.
That's the really, Censor was good. Censor was really good. The Last Matinee was dynamite. I loved it. It was the last movie I saw. So Censor is about a film censor in Britain in the 80s during the Video Nasty era.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And she comes across this movie, as part of her job. She watches this movie that mimics or mirrors rather the circumstances of her sister's disappearance when they were kids.
All right. Okay.
And it sends her on this kind of odyssey that takes a pretty weird twist by the end, but it was really good, really stylish, well done, good stuff. And then The Last Matinee is also a throwback movie. It's set in 1993, I think, specifically.
Okay.
And it takes place in an Italian movie theater. And it's very much a giallo style movie. So this killer shows up at the theater during the last showing and starts knocking people off while the movie's playing. And it's, oh my God, it's so good. It's so good.
So pretty in line with what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
Cool. So I might add, if you're remotely interested in seeing Censor, it just got picked up by Magnolia, so it's gonna get a pretty sizable release. You'll be able to see it in most movie theaters somewhere. So
yeah, it's really good.
Okay. Anything else? Are we leaving anything off from Panic Fest?
I also saw The Blazing World.
Okay.
Which I didn't love. Some other people some of the people I saw it with liked it more than I did. It's very stylized. It's very like Alice in Wonderland. It's not as much. I mean, it's definitely a horror movie, but it's not as much a horror movie as the other two I mentioned. It's more in line with something like The Fall, if anyone has seen that, Tarsum Singh, or however you say his name, movie, or Mirror Mask, or something like that. Those kind of really surreal Alice in Wonderland type movies. It's very much one of those. So
I don't know, if you wanted to imbibe in your favorite psychedelic whatever, that might be
Yeah,
the movie to go
it's
to.
it's definitely that kind of movie, 100%.
Okay, no, I think that's
um,
perfectly acceptable.
yeah, I mean, I
That
thought it was all right. Like people on Letterboxd fucking hated it. Oh my
oh,
god, the Letterboxd reviews of it are brutal.
y-
I did not think it was that bad by any means.
I like my bad letterbox reviews.
Oh my
So
god, like oh my god, yeah, just go scroll. Like I felt, I genuinely, cause like I watched it, I didn't love it, like I said, and I went to Letterboxd to leave my review, and I was like, it was. I think I gave it like 2.5 stars or something. Like it was fine, but it just wasn't my thing. I think I called it like a near miss, Um, but I was like scrolling through the other reviews after, and I felt genuinely bad for not liking it more because it was just getting savaged so badly. I was like, it was not that bad of a movie. Like I don't think I saw like a more than 1 star review, and I scrolled through several pages.
yikes.
It was rough. Like people were rough on that movie.
So your mileage may vary on that movie.
To be
Very
sure.
good. Well, I saw The Gin as part of Panic Fest. It is fantastic. It's probably my favorite movie that I've seen this year so far. So it's going to get another wide release. So it's coming very, very soon. I also wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about an Amazon show called Them. Have you heard anything about that?
So I mean, I've heard really mixed things. I know we ran on Signal Horizon kind of a response to the backlash that it's been getting.
Yeah.
And so I've heard real mixed stuff from that direction. Just that it like people have really strong opinions about its depiction of violence against Black people, of Black
Yeah.
trauma. I think
Yeah.
specifically, and I think that it's a really interesting conversation to be having, and that it's happening. I'm glad that it's happening. I'm also definitely not the person to speak about it, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I watched all of that controversy unfold, and to lay all the cards out on the table here, I think I've seen through episode 5, maybe. Um, I'll give you kind of my general opinion as somebody that fancies himself some sort of film or television critic, whatever, which is it's beautifully shot. It is its production quality and value is top. Like it is as good as you can get. The actors and actresses that are participating in it are fantastic and phenomenal, and all of that adds up to it being incredibly hard to watch.
yeah,
There is a moment. Skip ahead about 2 minutes if you don't want me to spoil individual elements of them. It won't be anything significant to the plot, I don't think. But there is a very specific abuse that happens to a child that is really like I got some hard lines, and I discovered a new one. I was like, wow,
yeah,
I don't need to see that, and I fast forwarded through it, and I echo your sentiment exactly, which is why Cece, who wrote the article here at Signal Horizon, is a fantastic African American writer. Absolutely value what she is bringing to the table, and she came to me and said, I would like to write a response. I loved this show.
mm-hmm.
I think it is important. As a Black woman, I think it is especially important, and I appreciated her viewpoint entirely. But yeah, man, I am left with it being just hard to
yeah.
watch.
I mean, I don't think ultimately that either viewpoint is like wrong.
Right.
I think that it's important that the conversation happen. It's not like there's a win condition here. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't think most people who are taking either position expect there to be one. Like, I don't think anyone says we should ban this show or something. It's just a moment for conversation to happen, I think. And
Yeah,
I think it's
totally.
also like, and I think it's also a testament to the writer, to the actors playing those characters, that it's hitting this hard, like that it's hitting this well. Like the actors obviously did a good job to sell this trauma well
Yeah.
enough to bring this kind of conversation to the fore. So
Yeah. And you're 100% right. Like if it wasn't believable, then it would be insulting and not ideal. But I was listening to the Slash Filmcast, which is another podcast that I absolutely adore, and they discussed it in the context that it feels a lot like Jordan Peele, right? It feels a lot like this kind of discursive horror that I think you and I really appreciate and really like.
Mhm.
But there is a nuance and a subtlety to it where Jordan Peele offers us a well-rounded approach to all of those things,
Right.
and quite literally, them is just about the suffering of its main characters. We don't get like, I don't know, these kind of secondary moments where they come together as a family and just function relatively normally or whatever. It's
Right.
just this really terrible thing happens to this character, and then we move to a different character in a different scene where this awful stuff happens. And I appreciate the argument that CC offered in the article, which is like that's life for many, you know, African American black folks in the United States. That is just representative of reality, especially of that time. And I am open to that most definitely, but man, it doesn't get making getting through all of that stuff any easier. It's
Yeah.
just real tough. So
I mean, yeah, as like a person who watches a lot of exploitation film and writes a lot about exploitation films, there's kind of these different layers in a lot of the exploitation films where some of them are just being exploitative. Like they're not offering substance or commentary or subtext or any of that. And then there's others that obviously are, but are using their exploitation trappings as a vehicle for those things and to kind of sneak those things in. And there's a whole spectrum in between. Like,
yeah,
you know, there's ones that are like, yeah, it's got these really good things and these really bad things and whatever. And, you know, and I don't think there's like, I don't think there's ever a problem with having discussions about that, like of having that be something we talk about. You know, is this just being exploitative, or is there something more going on? You know, like I think it's always good when we have those kind of conversations. So
yeah. I think that's probably a good transition pivot here. Is like that conversation that the horror community has had about that show in particular is really fantastic, right? Like there's nothing bad that's going to come out of having that conversation. Right. That being said, I don't think I can fully recommend them just because it's really rough. It's especially if you have children. Maybe engage in the discourse around it, but be very careful as you dive in. So. Yeah. So something far more lighter that I really appreciated over the last couple of weeks since we talked last was a book that I read, or a novella called A House at the Bottom of the Lake by Josh Malerman, who has, obviously is the author of Bird Box, but also a fantastic writer of short stories that we have covered before. He wrote, I think, a really funny episode of Creep Show that was one of my favorites of a few seasons ago.
Was it the Dollhouse one?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, super fun and very light, I would say. But The House at the Bottom of the Lake is most definitely light, and as a father of a teenager now, right? It captures the whimsy and the this draw that we have when we are teenagers to explore new things, whether that be love or sex or something like that, or a house at the bottom of the lake, which is ultimately the metaphor kind of for all of those things. But he does weird really well, he does creepy great, and I just had an absolute blast with it, and I was really sad when it was over. So check out House at the Bottom of the Lake. It is out now. You can get it on Amazon or I rented mine from the library. So there you go. And then the last thing I'll mention here, it hasn't come out yet, but we are almost all the way through the new season of Handmaid's Tale. And technically speaking, the embargo lifts in about 4.5 hours. But I'll tell you what I've seen so far, I really fucking dig. I really dig. it felt like watching that show during like the Trump administration. It felt like a little bit like watching CNN or something, like it was like watching reality too much. And so it made it less pleasurable. Now that things have progressed in the series, and now that things have changed at least a little bit here in the States, like the show is really, I think, firing on all cylinders again, primarily because of the jobs that the actors and the actresses all are doing in that, which is great.
What season is this at this point? Is this 3? Four.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. As I was typing up my recaps and reviews, I kept typing 3, and then I was like, "Holy shit! There have been 4."
Yeah, like and having not ever watched the show at all, actually, I feel like it has to have gotten way far out in the weeds from what the book was at this point, because the book is like this thick.
Yeah.
Right. The book is a slip of a thing. So yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. So I think what is interesting about that development is I think everybody was above board that at the end of season 1 was essentially where the book stops, right?
Right.
Now, since then, Margaret Atwood has written a sequel. I didn't write down what the sequel was called, but it follows kind of in the future a few of the characters that we meet, both in the show but in the book, and I think provides maybe some source material for the second, third, and fourth seasons, if not necessarily like actual plot lines, it maybe acts more of the North Star kind of pointing where we need to be. But clearly all of it is brand new after season 1 from the source material, and they've done a really good job,
Cool.
Like this is a little insider baseball, but like the main character June, like at some point decides she could go to Canada, but decides to stay in Gilead, / America or whatever, to continue the fight. And that always felt incredibly selfish. Like in the show, like both my wife and I were like, what the hell, get out, go see your family and yada, yada. And what I love is they have taken that choice and like allowed how wrong a choice that feels to kind of dictate how everybody else treats her, which is kind of like, you're selfish and kind of an asshole, and sure that you're doing all these great things, but you're kind of egomaniacal or something like that. And I don't know. I love it when we take these characters that we love so much and we humanize them, and we're like, you kind of suck, right? And because we all do, like we all are like that. So I think that would probably be a good time. If you are catching our show live, then feel free you can comment on this live feed and it'll come up here on StreamYard. And we would love to have you as part of this conversation or any other conversation that we have throughout tonight's festivities. So yeah, give us a comment, give us a like, give us a, you guys are full of crap. It won't be the first time I've heard that. So it certainly will not be the last either. So anything else that you've been reading, you watching, you want to mention before we move on?
I think we're good.
All right. So our dark corner of the web tonight is going to be a great little creature feature. It's a short film, and I'll provide the link here. It's called Let Me Play, and it's got a super innovative monster. And like, I have 2 boys. I think I probably talk about too much, but it's mostly a story about how you shouldn't screw with your siblings because they'll get back at you. So I don't want to spoil too much of it. It's not very long at all, but right now it's up on Crypt TV, and it's an absolute blast. So check out Let Me Play. It's 9 minutes long. Nice, short, easy runtime. I love that. So yeah, check that out. Okay, you know what we haven't done in a while, Orrin?
Dun, dun, dun.
You want to play some trivia?
Sure.
Let's play some trivia! All right, let me see if I kept the card that tells me what's what. Oh, I did. Look at that. All right. Here we go. You all can play along at home, too. If you know the right answer, type it in the comments here. But we're going to start with the monster category. The titular monster in Babadook, 2014, is found in a pop-up book titled what?
It's not just the Babadook. It's
So good. You're good. You're so good.
I can't remember what it is though. It's like it has the Babadook in it, but it's like it's not like Here Comes the Babadook, but it's something like that. Like uh, maybe Mr. Babadook, something Mr. I don't know.
Ding, ding, ding! It was Mr. Babadook. Well done.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Holy shit.
All right. This asshole is 1 for 1, making me look bad as usual. There's no way I would have gotten that one. Oh, like Babadook? Oh. Okay. Second category is gore/disturbing. In Final Destination 2 from 2003, how does death pursue the characters? The order they escaped it, or the reverse order they escaped it? This is dumb.
I don't think that's the reverse order. There is a reverse order one, but I don't think it was 2. But maybe it was.
Can you just imagine the writer's room in that pitch? What if we went in reverse order?
What if we went in reverse order? I don't know.
Oh, he's contemplating.
I'm gonna go the order. I'm gonna go with the order they escaped it. I'm gonna be wrong, but
the reverse order they escaped.
Reverse order. Okay, I knew one of them had a reverse order. I just didn't remember which one. Two's the best one too. Two's the best one.
2 is the interstate, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Occasionally, we either run on the website or I see floating around Facebook the like only like kids born in the 80s or whatever understand just how scary, and they'll show like a truck with a bunch
logging
of logs.
truck.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that interstate death sequence is one of the best like put together sequences I've ever seen. It's so good. It's so good.
Well, and I think really masterfully connects that kind of Rube Goldberg, I don't know, flavor that all of those movies have. So yeah, so fun, so good.
So good.
All right. Number 3 is going to come from the psychological category. What is the name of the villainous character Kathy Bates portrays in Misery from 1990?
Oh, hell.
This was a question at Trivia that I hosted a couple weeks ago.
Annie Wilkes?
Well done.
Is that right? Yeah, okay.
2 for 3. I like it. Okay.
I like how I got right the one from the movie I haven't actually seen and missed the one from the movie I've seen like a million times.
I think like it's a book, it's a movie, obviously. I think she won an Academy Award for it, or at least was nominated.
She was for sure nominated. I think she won. I don't remember.
Yeah. And Annie Wilkes made a comeback on that Castle Rock show on Hulu, which has now been canceled, but she was like the main character of this last season. So maybe you picked it up in like, pop culture zeitgeist or whatever. Okay. Paranormal. Which of these actors was not in the 1976 version of Carrie? John Travolta, Sissy Spacek, Amy Irving, or Julianne Moore?
Julianne Moore.
That is correct. But she was in the remake. She
right.
played mom.
Yeah.
Played mom in the remake.
I mean, she would have been very young in the 1976 version, so I she could have been, I guess, but she would have been very young. So
yeah, that's probably true. It's good that we're keeping you smart. All right. Killer category. In 1973's Theater of Blood, Edward Lionheart recites passages by what playwright?
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not hard, but
right.
Also, I've seen Theater of Blood lots of times. It's super good.
Okay, I have not. We need to add that one to the queue.
It's one of Vincent Price's themed murder movies. It's so good. So good.
Oh, cool. Not remotely surprised that you have seen him. Okay, last one. And you're going, I think, for 5 out of 6. Damn. I think
so, yeah.
Killed it. Best showing yet. Here we go. For all the marbles, this is international. In what century is Onibaba, the 1964 movie, set? Jesus Christ, I'd have no clue.
I mean, I don't know the century because my grasp of what century Japanese history takes place in is poor. Yeah. Like it's the Meiji era, I think, but I don't know what century that is. So,
guess me a number.
1800s.
14th century.
14th century. Okay, way later than or way earlier than that. Okay. Yeah, my grasp of Japanese history is rather my grasp of what year things take place in Japanese history. My grasp of like what order things happen in is okay, but like what year that is, I got nothing.
Yeah, I would be tough either way, man. Like, especially some of that stuff. Now, I remember in a writer that pitched me an article about Onibaba being this kind of discussion of women's role in Japanese society. Mm-hmm. And I think we ended up publishing that article, and it was really fascinating. I have yet to see it. So
me too, actually. I really want to. It's on my list of like classic Japanese horror that I haven't seen, but I haven't seen it either. But like, even if I had, it wouldn't help me because like, so if I watch a movie that's set in the West, and this is my ignorance. You know, if I watch a movie set in Europe or something, I can tell you more or less when it was set by what everything looks like, right? I know what 14th century Europe looks like more or less. Now, to be fair, like I could mostly go eras. I could go like medieval era or Renaissance era, whatever. But like in Japan, if it's set prior to the invention of like automobiles and stuff, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the different eras look like.
Yeah.
And so like all the samurai stuff, it's all the same era in my head, and it's not at all. But
you know, I just think that we do a pretty poor job. Understandably, there's a lot of history that you have to cover, and I think we just sacrifice some of that because even like the basic, you know, like you have these kind of dynasties that rule that history, and I have no freaking clue. You know, the Ming dynasty is about as good as I get, and I have no idea the years or what it's about or anything.
Right.
So yeah. Anyways, that is Orrin and I telling you all to go check out Onibaba. So yeah. Okay, man. I think it may be time to tackle this essential question, which I had a ton of trouble kind of trying to decide, like what question to ask, how we might use this film in a classroom, what it may say about teaching. You know, I was trying to find an angle, and I ultimately settled on this essential question tonight, which is, what commentary does Popcorn offer about the future of the movie theater or the future of AV clubs in general? So let's check out. I'm going to pull up the trailer right now, and we'll take a look in 3, 2, 1.
Before the horror of Halloween, before the fear of Friday the 13th, before the evil of A Nightmare on Elm Street, before them all, there was... Now, 15 years later, he's back. Oh, yes.
There's something happening here that I've been looking for all of my life. There's smoke. Someone takes her hand. She's running. The same man comes towards her.
I'm in a dream.
I remember the whole thing. Stop!
Are you ready? Popcorn. Buy a bag. Go home in a box.
All right. Well, so let me tell y'all a couple of things about this movie. Number one, Orrin picked a movie that is damn near impossible to watch. I looked everywhere for a streaming service to check out this film, and there was, it appears like some sort of vanity Blu-ray / DVD release that I got maybe a handful of years ago. But ultimately, I would not tell anyone this if there was a legitimate means about which to see this movie, okay? But there are two versions of this on YouTube. Number one, the first version that I watched about half of is garbage. It's like a terrible bootleg that almost looks like it could have been somebody filming it off of like a TV. It's not good. But then, inexplicably, the other is really great, like crystal clear, looks wonderful, but it has commentary from the writer, director, and cast in it. So that's what I watched the last half of the film with, and honestly, it was a wonderful way to see the movie. It was really great. So, I know the answer to this, and I will hypothesize why in just a bit. But you tell me, why'd we pick popcorn?
First of all, I apologize for how hard it was to get. I normally try and check for that before I recommend movies. Like I try and recommend things other people can watch. I own it, of course. Of
Course you do.
I have the Blu-ray that you just mentioned, like the Synapse Films Blu-ray. So yeah, normally I check for that stuff. I try and make sure that both you and our potential audience can watch the movie we're about to talk about, rather than just being like, "Hey, everybody, watch this weird fucking thing that only I can see." It's like
you
it's
love
like
that power. Yeah,
it's like Harvey, only instead of a giant imaginary rabbit, I have movies no one else can see.
I like it. I also, like, in my mind, I've been to your townhome, but in my mind, like, you have this vault of like movies that are the only copy of, right? Some of which make you insane. I fucking love that. That's great.
No, I picked popcorn just because it's you recommended we do like a back to the theater theme, right? And it's the most going to the theater movie I can think of.
Yeah.
Like, it's a movie that, so I hadn't seen it in a while when I watched it for the first for this. I had not seen it in some time. But like, it's a movie that is more. We'll talk in a bit about its flaws as a movie, but it is a movie that feels like going to the horror-thon they're putting on, right? It feels like going with a bunch of. It feels like going to hang out with a bunch of people in a movie theater and watch a bunch of stupid movies. That's what it feels like. And when it feels like that, it's great. It's firing on all cylinders when that's what it feels like. And so this is the first movie I thought of when I thought of going back to the theater was this. Also, yes, as you are going to point out in a minute, it has songs in it, and the songs are great. The songs are fantastic. So.
All right, so if I'm going to define the gray oeuvre, all right, here are some necessities of, what you have to fit into that oeuvre. Number one are these very odd full musical numbers. There is a full musical number smack dab in the middle of this, and it's great. Like, the music is really fun and whatever, but literally it's like a bad guy does a bad thing, and like the movie theater kind of goes down, and they're like, now let's have the band. Like a band.
The power went off. Let's break out the band. Yeah.
Right.
And then the band just does a song.
Yeah. Oh, and it's not even like really a scary song that
And it's hilarious because there are 3 songs, right, by the same band on the soundtrack. There are 3 songs. 2 of them directly relate to the movie.
Okay.
Are either of those the one they perform in that sequence? No. They perform the generic random, just any random song in that sequence. That's the one. Yep.
I loved the reggae, right? Like the thing is this is like a horror marathon. So whoever, put together this big, huge, wonderful experience, which looks fantastic, right?
Oh my
Like
God.
I think you and I would be there in a heartbeat, right?
I want to do that for real, but with William Castle, like actual William Castle movies. I want to do it so bad.
Yeah, right. Like that is right up our alley. And somebody was like, we really should book a band. And then somebody else was like, I know, let's do reggae because nothing says horror like really cool reggae music. Which
Okay, so I haven't done any legwork to verify this. Zero, none. This is pure speculation.
these
And
are my favorite. All right, go ahead.
It
Yeah.
would be very easy to verify this, but I haven't at all. So the theater, the Dreamland Theater that the movie takes place in, the real theater that they used for at least the exteriors, and I'm assuming the interiors as well, is in Jamaica.
No way.
Yeah. So I'm assuming then that this band was a local band that they got.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is super interesting. All right.
Yeah, so they're shooting at least some of the movie in Jamaica.
So let me get this right. The theater that they either use the outside of or the inside or both?
Right, definitely the outside, possibly also the inside. I don't know, but they changed the marquee. It's not actually called the Dreamland; it's called something else. But they changed the marquee. But yeah, the actual theater is in Jamaica.
I don't get that. Why Jamaica? There got to be a billion abandoned theaters all around the United States.
I'm assuming, again, I have no idea because this is what I assume whenever anyone makes a horror movie, pretty much ever, honestly. I'm assuming someone either wanted to go to Jamaica and needed a tax break for it, or was already in Jamaica and was trying to hide some money somewhere, so they made a movie. Those are my assumptions. I don't know. Like, I'm so used to reading about, like, of the like backroom weirdo exploitation filmmakers who were like, we're going to shoot in this country because I live here already.
Yeah.
Or we're going to shoot in this country because I want to go to that country for some other reason, and I'm going to use this film as cover.
Yeah, right. Like my family wants to go to Jamaica this summer.
Right.
But I guess we'll find a movie theater in Jamaica. Why not?
Yeah, I don't know. And so I have literally no idea why. But yeah, I do know that the movie theater in question was in Jamaica. And so I'm assuming then that the reason it's a reggae band is because they were in Jamaica already.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That would be the best explanation possible. All right, so before we get into deep into this movie, let's talk a little bit. I'll give you the real brief summary of what the movie is about. According to the Internet Movie Database, nice small one here. A master of disguised, deranged killer begins killing off the college students who are organizing a horror movie marathon in an abandoned theater. Or, this is what I would have said, this movie is what would have happened if William Castle was cast as Jigsaw. Essentially, they take all of these kind of like really campy, gimmicky movies, right? And create this movie marathon where they use all of these gimmicks as a means to make some money, right?
Yeah. And the killer then uses all the gimmicks to kill people, of course.
Yes.
What you do, right? But also, every one of those gimmicks is a real gimmick.
Okay. I'm 100% certain you can talk in depth about some of this stuff. So let's talk with the first movie that they show, which I think is called Mosquito, if I remember right.
Mosquito or The Mosquito or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the real movie it's based off of?
I don't know. So, I mean, the movie they show is obviously based off of all the myriad atomic big insect movies from the 50s. So, like, them. Only not the Amazon show, Tarantula, Earth versus the Spider, beginning of the end, all those. There were just tons of those big bug movies, and it's definitely like the movie they're showing is a reference to those big bug movies. The gimmick is the gimmick from House on Haunted Hill. It's Emerjo in House on Haunted Hill was a skeleton that came out on a wire and flew over the audience.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, the gimmick is from House on Haunted Hill, but they just replaced it with a mosquito. But
very good. And Mosquito ends up killing the faculty member?
The teacher. I'm assuming it's like a film class.
Yeah.
because they're all wannabe filmmakers. So I'm assuming they're in a film class. We never actually see them do any class. So
Yeah. They're in the gym at the very beginning, and they're like, "We always get moved around. Nobody likes us," and blah blah blah.
Right.
And poor teacher who's like championing their rise is one of the first to get it at the raw end of a gigantic mosquito. Yeah, that's rough. Okay, so we move from that to the Electric Man. I think is the
Yeah.
title that the movie gives it.
I think it's like the Amazing Electrified Man or something. But
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Um, so that's a reference to a whole myriad again of movies that they made where people often they were just like this guy. They were condemned criminals, and they did some kind of experiment on them so that they gained some sort of superpower, and then people tried to exploit them to make them do crimes all of the time. So you had like the Amazing Transparent Man. You had the Indestructible Man, which I think had Lon Chaney Jr. in it. You had the Projected Man, which was a little bit later in British. But yeah, there were a whole subgenre of those back in the like 50s into the 60s.
Okay,
And the gimmick is from the Tingler. The gimmick is like the most famous gimmick of William Castle's oeuvre. It's the electrified seats from the Tingler.
Yeah. So as I was watching all of that, I'm sure I was thinking the same thing you are, which we were always thinking. We have wonderful friends down at Screenland Armor. We're always probably hounding Adam, the owner, for like, hey, we'd be happy to host, and which is really just an excuse for us to see these movies on the big screen, right? And maybe meet some of you guys that listen to our stuff in person, which is always great. But mostly it's just an excuse to go to the movies and see the cool shit that we want to see. What do you think's the likelihood that we can get him to install, some of those, buzzers or whatever? Yeah.
I still want, like, I genuinely want to someday get him to let me, or let me and some more technically savvy people than me recreate some of these like William Castle gimmicks, right? We essentially do what they're doing in Popcorn. We show like 3 William Castle movies. We recreate all the gimmicks. It would be so good. And like some of them would be cheap. The Tingler one would not be cheap. It would be a pain in the ass, but the Emerjo would be cheap. We just run a skeleton on a wire.
And I'm friends with enough. I am not tech savvy, like that kind of tech savvy. Like I'm not good with my hands, but I am friends with people that are. And if I was like, hey, I really need you to run one wire from whatever, I think we could do that. I think if I were to say, I'm going to need you to electrify some of these seats, they'd be like, I'm going to need you to not include my name in any more emails about this.
My limited understanding of the actual Tingler gimmick was that they were not electrified. They were essentially like joy buzzers, right? They vibrated.
Yeah.
Is my understanding. Which would still be plenty shocking, no pun intended, especially if you were not familiar with like the gimmick already. So
yeah, I think all right, okay, so let's bring this full circle then. The last one that we have, the last movie is called, I think, The Stench.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
So we don't see very much of the stench in the movie. Like we see less of the film within the film a bit than the others. But I'm assuming it is. I mean, it's obviously Japanese in the film. Like they're watching what is clearly a Japanese film that's been dubbed. And I'm assuming it's supposed to be some of the like weird exploitation movies like Oily Maniac, or the movies that were like, they weren't kaiju movies, but they were being churned out by the same studios just on lower budgets and like pushed out, the Japanese equivalent of our like drive-in movie, double feature fare that we were turning out around the same time. And so I'm assuming it's one of those from the little bit we see of it. The gimmick is a real gimmick they were going to use. I don't remember what movie for, but never did.
Okay.
It was a movie that they famously were like, ooh, here's a great idea. Let's pump stinky air into the movie theater. And basically movie theater chains were like, hey, here's an idea. Let's fucking not actually do that. How about?
Because that was my immediate thought, right? They have all these like stinky pellets that they feed through this thing, right? And it's like, dirty locker room, like shitty toilet, like
Dead
it's a,
body, or dead
right, yeah,
body.
dead body, right. It's like I appreciate that, and that would be a fascinating experience. But like, what if you were gonna go see like The Lion King afterwards? You know, like what the hell, man? Like this is
Right.
great for tonight. What's it gonna be like tomorrow?
I think they just essentially couldn't sell anyone on the idea of doing that, which is good. That's not a good idea for a gimmick. That's a bad idea for a gimmick.
Yeah. Well, I do think one of the highlights of this film though are those well laid like elements of those other films. If we didn't see some parts of those films, if we didn't like feel that they were legitimate or whatever, then I think it would take the whole film down a notch. But like they're fully fledged ideas, you
Yeah,
know?
so many movies. Some of them better movies than this one, frankly, have used other movies for their film within a film, right? Like, so there's Targets, which is a film I absolutely love, which uses other movies that Boris Karloff was in, The Terror, and some other films as the fake films that they're talking about in the movie. There's the Vincent Price, another one of Vincent Price's themed murder movies, Madhouse. He's a horror actor who's been in all these Doctor Death movies, and they just use footage from other Vincent Price movies for them.
Yeah.
And like it's super pulls you out of the film. Like it's especially if you've seen those movies, but like it doesn't work. And this film like does such a good job making fake movies. Like they're very kind of true, and they're jokey and satirical, but very true to a lot of the like overdone parts of the movies they're aping, and just very and visually they look really good. They look really accurate to the period for the most part. It's just they do a great job with the films within a film.
Yeah, they're very convincing, right? And at its core, that's kind of I guess we're looking for that added layer of authenticity or whatnot. And you know, so now I think would be an important time to kind of talk about the troubled production of this movie. It was written and then a director hopped in. In fact, let me see if I have that original director in my notes here. Yeah, it was originally directed by the writer who is credited as Alan Ornsby. He was the first director for a little while. He's also a featured actor in the film, so he's doing all kinds of stuff. He was let go, and then one of the actresses was let go, and then
the lead.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, like
they had to reshoot like I don't know half of the film, and then replaced the lead actress, and then replaced the director with Mark Harrer, if I'm saying that right. Harrier? I don't know. You probably know better than me. But and then that leaves us with this thing. So it's one of those movies that really feels a bit like it was a miracle that it got made at all.
I mean, it's a movie that feels, and it's extra weird that this movie did, because like this movie feels so much like a labor of love that it's weird to imagine it having so many like shifts of personnel and still getting made. Like it's very it's we're lucky
and to be good, right? Like or good enough. Like I don't know if you could call this film good, but you could definitely call this film entertaining, and it's definitely
it's a movie that has many problems with how it runs, but it's so much fun, and it's such a blast, and it's so lively and feels so much of a joy to watch that the fact that like its plot is paced weird and the reveal is weird, and like there are so many flaws with how it's structured, but like you don't care. I mean, you know.
No. Yeah. Well, and you have a great villain, right? Like what I was amazed at is you have this kind of interesting villain who pretends to be different characters or whatever, which is honestly done a billion times in a billion different ways. But like the prosthetics that they put on him as he's switching faces. Hey, speaking of prosthetics, there's a little guy right here. Hey, little guy. Like they are scary and they look scary, and the different faces that he has are really terrifying.
Yeah.
So let's I think let's examine just a minute and just a bit of some of those pacing issues that you talked about. Is it because we get introduced to these killers and the killing late? What do you think are the pacing issues that we're facing?
I think there's lots of things going on. And I think that in some ways the trailer you showed, because I had never seen that trailer actually, I think that the trailer kind of showcases in some ways some of the problems with how the movie is structured, which is that like the trailer makes it look like a very different kind of film than it is, right? It makes it look like a film much more in the vein of the films that it trots out to mention. Like it mentions Halloween and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, and obviously the killer's look is meant to evoke Freddy from A Nightmare on Elm Street.
And it's great. Like he's fucking creepy looking.
His look is great. His look is really great, like with the big metal staples and everything.
Yeah.
But like that's not the kind of movie this is. Not really. This movie is very much. It's much less interested in that stuff. And so like you've got the possessor plot, right? Which incidentally, I loved the movie that the trailer made it seem like this was a sequel to a movie called Possessor that doesn't exist. That was really good.
Didn't exist back then, right? Like it could have been the Cronenberg Possessor that and that this would not be a sequel to that movie.
But yeah, like you've got that whole plot with that backstory, which is important to the story, but like it's front loaded with exposition about it, and then doesn't really come back up until the end.
Yeah.
And in between, there's a lot of kind of like wandering around, which oddly is when the movie's at its best, is when it's just wandering around.
Sure.
Like, I mean, you mentioned the song number in the middle, like when the power goes out, but honestly, my favorite part of the movie, like the moment when this movie is functioning at its optimal point, is when they're all putting the theater together, like the montage of them sweeping up and hanging the posters and unveiling the popcorn machine and all that shit, that's set to that really delightful song by the same band about like Saturday Night, We're Going to the Movies song.
Yeah.
Like, that song is this great love letter to the movie theater. The whole sequence, everybody's having such a good time, and it's so good natured and so like cheerful.
Yeah.
And that's this movie. Like it's way less interested in its horror plot than it is in recreating these B horror movies from the past and
the experience.
And the experience and its love of this theater and the act of going to the theater, which is kind of another, again, why we picked it for tonight. Like this is a movie that is all about going to the theater.
No, I think entirely you hit the nail on the head. Like, I loved that song. It was so sweet and like made me whimsical, but it wasn't like cringy. Like it just seemed very genuine, which is why at its core, this was a perfect movie to like kick off Back to the Theater Month, because like I want to go. It made me want to go be around all those freaking people, right? Without masks on, having a blast, enjoying themselves, you know? I really think we could probably talk for this movie for a whole nother hour, but we're running out of time. So, 4 movies, all right? Each of us pick 2 movies. If you like this movie, you should totally explore some other ones. What are your 2 movies here?
So I want to pick The Last Matinee that I just saw that no one can watch.
Very on brand. Very on brand.
You know? But it's also a movie that's very much about people in a theater watching a movie.
Okay.
It's much less lighthearted than this one, though it's not lighthearted, to be sure. But so I'm going to pick it, and then I was going to go with Scream 4.
Okay.
Because Scream 4 is my favorite of the Scream movies. But B, Scream 4 has the really great stab-a-thon sequence where they're all literally watching a film in a barn. Like they're watching a movie theater in a barn. But it's got that same, like, everybody's really into it. They're all wearing masks.
Yeah.
With a props and stuff. They're really excited to be doing this, and it's got that whole sequence. So it reminded me of that.
I love it.
And as a bonus, in case you can't watch The Last Matinee because you can't, I love The Tingler, and The Tingler has a movie theater sequence and is heavily referenced in this film. So, absolutely, The Tingler is good stuff.
Yeah, no, I think 3 excellent picks. Okay. I picked Waxwork, all right? It's one of my favorite films. I fucking love it. But it also has that kind of different vignette quality about it, right? Like, each kill has a different, like, subgenre or whatever, and it's got different actors in it. So I felt like
referencing a bunch of specific old movies.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Like I saw these two as a fantastic, like, late 80s, early 90s double feature that I would be so excited to check out. In my second film is a movie that I didn't necessarily love when I first watched it, but I think really captures a lot of the same energy and spirit. It's a movie that came out last year. I caught it at the Brooklyn Horror Festival, and I think it was actually at Panic Fest too. It's called Porno, and it is not a porno. It's essentially about a movie theater. They find a secret room, and in the secret room there is this movie that unlocks a demon, right?
Yeah.
But definitely has the same kind of love affair with old school movie theaters and old school movie theater going experiences. So yeah. And then my extra, just for kicks and giggles, would be Summer School, because this movie has Kelly Jo Minter in it, who is in all kinds of awesome shit from that era. So Summer School, very obviously, with its horror movie kind of adjacent plot lines. Of course, she was in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, I am pretty sure. So she's kind of, I don't know, I would say Scream Queen-ish, right? Wow.
Sure, makes sense.
Okay.
Also,
go.
Sorry, you said like late 80s, early 90s, and every time this movie comes up, I cannot believe that it's from 1991. Like, this feels so much like an 80s movie for so many reasons. And I feel like I saw the box art for this movie in the video store my entire life.
Yeah, yes.
I cannot remember a time when I did not know the box art from this movie.
Yeah. So we used to go up to this movie theater, movie rental place called Cedar Chest Movie Rental. So it was right up the road. It was like, before Blockbuster took over everything. And they had a great horror section. But for whatever reason, organized in their horror section, I remember distinctly this box art right next to I Spit on Your Grave, right? It was very distinct box art with, like, I don't know, like somebody, I think she had a butcher knife behind her back, and she had like a nightgown on or something. I remember that very specifically. And then right next to that was Faces of Death, which, like, that's the beauty of old school video rental places, or like there's no rhyme or reason. Like, like, they're not like, we need the newest, best, coolest movies. They're just like, let's just buy a lot of weird shit and see if people will rent it.
And not put them in anything like alphabetical order, apparently.
Right. Like, it's, here you go. Pick one of them. Yeah. So, yeah, it's high quality stuff. We are running out of time, but I don't want to leave without at least reading our anonymous letterbox user. You want to read it, or you want me to?
You can go ahead. I don't have it pulled up.
Okay. Anonymous letterbox user has this to say about this film that I will say I really enjoyed. You will believe a clumsily self-aware horror film whose original director was replaced by an actor from Porky's. That's a 100% true story, too, by the way. Yeah. Whose script throws in unexplained supernatural bullshit in the forms of letters leaping from a movie theater marquee, whose idea of character-building dialogue involves some college-aged idiot spouting off unfunny sub-Amondian nonsense. I don't know what sub-Amondian means.
I wonder if they're talking about Armand White.
Oh,
famous like movie. What's the word I'm looking for? Person who has bad opinions. Armand White.
Critic. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Nonsense about Police Academy 5 having more merit than any of Ingmar Bergman's smorgasbords. whose death tableaus involve explosive knockout gas pellets dropped into toilets in a toilet stall that locks from the outside. I did think the same thing. I'm like, what the fuck is that? That seems like a bad idea. And whose end credits are scored by a novelty rap number that makes Barney Rubble's Fruity Pebbles rap sound like Christopher Wallace freestyle. It's a tedious, soul-draining piece of garbage. And if anyone involved with the production of this mess, as reported by IMDb Trivia, actually claimed Coffin Joe was an inspiration for the staple-faced, mask-happy baddie, JJM should sue them to hell and back. At least we'll always have Jill Schoelen's bangs. Holy shit.
Yeah.
As always, there's probably a little bit of truth in this bad review, but I don't know. I had too much fun to really give it.
Like, this person clearly has no joy in their life. Like,
yeah, or sense of humor, or yeah.
Like, yeah. If you are the kind of person, right, who is going to respond to Popcorn with that review, why did you ever watch Popcorn? It is clearly not a movie for you.
Yeah, right? Like, shouldn't you be sitting through the 7th hour of Sense and Sensibility or something, right? Like, this is not your jam.
It's definitely not for you. Like, clearly not for you. I don't understand. But
Yeah. Oh, well, he did give it a half star, so that's all right. Anything left to say about this wonderful movie I'm so thrilled that you introduced me to?
Had you never seen this before?
This was a new watch for me.
Oh my god! I'm sorry you had to watch it through like 7 weird format switches and shit. I could have borrowed your DVD / Blu-ray if I would. Yeah, you know.
Whatever.
No, I don't think. I mean, there's lots more to talk about, I'm sure, but I think we're good for that.
Yeah. Well, where can they find more of your stuff out on the internet there, Orrin?
As always, I am Orrin Gray at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those places, and on Letterboxd if you want to come and make fun of my Letterboxd reviews.
Yeah.
Please feel free. And at OrrinGray.com.
Very good. You can find more of my stuff at Ty Unsel on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I also do most of the day-to-day stuff at Signal Horizon. So you can always send me an email at Tyler at signalhorizon.com. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you watching. However else you're checking out our content tonight. We love what we do. And if you like what we're doing too, then feel free to give us a 5-star review, give us a quick review on Apple iTunes. Helps us go up and keeps the lights on and all that kind of jazz. So what are we going to talk about next time for Back to Theater Week, Orrin?
Next time we're going to talk about the 1988 remake of The Blob.
Yes! Yeah. I'm thrilled. I remember when that came on HBO, and I about shit my pants. So it's going to be great. Well, tune in next time where you might see me shit my pants. I hope you won't. Until then, I think class is dismissed.